Chedan Dorjee Chonan La Chanchu Bandon Dane Gyatsen Dhargye Chujurun Yubin Zonan Gen Rola Benje Sanje Lobaran Sho Dorjee Chonan La Chanchu Bandon Dane Gyatsen Dhargye Chujurun Yubin Zonan Gen Rola Benje Sanje Lobaran Sho Chedan Dorjee Chonan La Chanchu Bandon Dane Gyatsen Dhargye Chujurun Yubin Zonan Gen Rola Benje Sanje Lobaran
Simje Tamji, Toja Lana Bayanta Bodove, Sanji, Komoro Bujeni, Yatabasha, Tishi, Tamisha, Sanyami, Kulu Shaju, Sinjuma, Sinji said, and Samushis.
Let us cultivate the altruistic motivation or bodhicitta motivation, seeking complete enlightenment for the benefit of all other sentient beings. And with that kind of at least contrived bodhicitta motivation, that we should all participate in this discourse on mind training like the rays of the sun. I'll read a couple of pages from this Lochong text, Mind Training Like the Rays of the Sun, from page 104, to give you the blessing of lineage oral transmission, followed by explanation.
西巴西得了巴阿巴拉马日巴我送有可以找啊。对呀，把这波了，他们也到电了，把贵姓电了，不别住。他们的马里巴呢，马里别的马里巴呢，马里别没住，说就把伊拉这样这个嘞，先说的这个干什么去？我这就没对说满意些，日本给他没对说就把我说这个。我看上中了，没想见到没被动到被动到写着我，天呐天天到处找到把人了，天天看啥到世界到处这么你说，天大给没有看啥到世界地定都找的位置当节约呢，或者是一大的。看啥都知道，原来看啥是一代，第二他们得了白巴拉，搞啥好像叫的，叫往这边吃什么呢？没得没容易，原来的搞叫那一把的，这把一把，这个年是定的，这么个给人就我们那下些吧呢。这个边路西边一点在月吧，怎么就没些吧？月吧前面就没些吧？过年就没当，那上个点他去中国没去。下把中国没去的，那下对些在大家前面这把肉做没些吧的，出生的这个这边了，西到西街到这我的了不比，通过别人说两边在他的写着呀，这我送去的呀么这我。苏州的公边这边那个说，就是一个人看啥这个都觉了，我就到把他的这些。因为好些些马东些把这对轮着，你们现在为我呢，申请统计就说，其轮这个关键那些当些钱，这个呢，他们也统计就说，其轮这个关键那些他们那些那些车把就了。瞧喜欢呢，他弟兄的这学习东西，搞什么能这些嘛，让这个这样，觉得大街边没遇到工钱，别说你这地方大，学习大这个别学习大没见，能下没些吧，等大没就东西，东看啥大没长大，这样看啥是这为就这么长了这多。那么这个咱这最毛的行到先不到，他们这东西多了，好大些的你嘞，我们你这地方打理了，你把你送到这包括他的就他这吧，就他爹多些的为的这种我也没有毛啊，这让你来的让你们那里他们这个东西。从他们也说这个到好像他们也最俺们人当这些，去他们呢都给把嘞，那不是出吧就嘛这边，我不希望。我不希望我不让生，那的希望送别都不喜欢了，没这个的，都没那了嘛，这我给没这个给小别让先让这些就些别，不过就是学习这个就没觉得没讲我们过去大年你们先把那样给下把买一杯东西留留带，在他隔壁东西学都没人知道，不知道的那些事。他的群众的地来打可是， 同等小学生中的和学人的话，但你看到工作的呢，同等小学生的东西的呀些，东西的呀的来呢，可是啊，我也没打那么考试嘛，就现在那第二呀拍了你，俺那小时候的，但是可是东西带路的下来，我的马上在现在见呢，那年送到的地方么不是的，那路的呢。ina tila ya ina tongi khurang tabi khera ma se tila tene ina paji do nyalene la sabu yonde tanda tila tene in chungu resi o ti oman juba longa tene tati ke xe sa tete ti tongi tenung ki ducha te ngosu ma xe ta tari tene ma ina te ta tondo xe sebe xebe zui ta khurang tondo shangshu sem te kanda jire sa na wati xe ya tari tene yin si
Geshe read from page 104 to 108 to give us the blessing of lineage oral transmission. As you may recall, last week we started off talking about cultivating the ultimate awakened mind or ultimate bodhicitta, Dondam Changjusam in Tibetan, and which basically means realizing the ultimate nature of a phenomena. And so as we already talked about this, that this kind of discourse on ultimate bodhicitta or emptiness should be given to those who are receptive to this kind of teaching. We call suitable vessels of the teaching. If we don't do that, if we teach it to anybody, there are risks involved. The risk is that they may not understand what emptiness actually is, and they are likely to fall either into the extreme of eternalism, taktha, or into the extreme of nihilism, cheda. So there's a danger that who are not ready for discourse on ultimate bodhicitta and emptiness, they may either fall into one of those two extremes. Especially when you fall into the extreme of nihilism, which means you deny the existence of everything, and so that kind of denial becomes very detrimental in that we might end up creating a lot of negativities that could precipitate our rebirth into unfortunate states, including hell. Yeah. On the other hand, if the discourse on the ultimate bodhicitta or emptiness is given to the right, receptive, individuals, it will be of tremendous benefit to them. Not only they are likely to understand and then realize, emptiness as it is, by the power of cultivating this ultimate awakened mind or ultimate bodhicitta, they're also able to enhance their other practices by the power of understanding emptiness, realizing that they're able to practice the six perfections or paramitas, much better. And so those are the things we already talked about, and of course the other things are when is the right time to give this kind of teaching, and what is this actual teaching all about.
D'accord, ça. Il va tomber, tempo de 3点学生的，今天我是不，就讲就告诉那个，俺多人多，天天上是工作生讲话这些，然后俺工作生就见你去，同志是就这么人要的是，对路，你能得到，俺来那工作生俺见。提交了同志生的老乡提录的意思是了吧？那么到这些呢，就把原没结我讲里面录的他妈的我这点学习什么的，我一心都这样，这不里边来他下来搞不他就是说上网同的别，从就心中的录音了，我现在的录中，可是啊同志们可能我那现在的。从事同学生到，可是 工作是你呢，他们统统上就是就的年写的吧，写。
No.
你那现在他可以到第六岁到第六岁你们我是可能写到第什么着的。
No.
我天，年代我是这，我这第六节，这把都。恐怕连他比下来，恐怕对比就是，上堂特别深度的录音我是，感觉工作上去什么鸟堂呢？因天就是同桌上去是特别录的意思。
So.
因同桌上去是用不搞开始呢，学的没弄到什，马街里边写了这，年不年加上50主是，两句我过去我那小姐送的是。我对他老总对他同志们那原因写的哇，送的了这个当部呢，所谓对别学呢对面的担保，得了阿知道，所的日本医生呢，以前希望有了所些，以前希望日本是他都是学他就听得对着是吧？我对都是他对别学的对面得了把最这些。但一般呢，日本这个是，日本这边多些的很多，学员呢，这边的跑出，说吧呢，那专业人员讲，按这边的协助的，在那呢，几乎没超最老是的，人员这边这边是的这的，他不有送这边这些，他那有件这边这些，他那他你最。有那些，可是这边写到什么有些？我这边写到什么些呢？那这边是什么的？第一个这边是这个，那蛮有这个，他东北人想要的，我的他，那的统统上就是就老容易都提引是不是
？We are on page 105. And right at the top, the big caption reads, the time for imparting the teachings. And then in the italics, there's a statement which reads, when stability has been attained, impart the secret teaching, unquote. As Geshe explained, in terms of cultivating the two types of awakened mind or bodhicitta, conventional bodhicitta or conventional awakened mind, and ultimate awakened mind or ultimate bodhicitta. There are two ways. One way is, as it is, I think, presented in the 7-point mind training text itself, that the ultimate awakened mind or bodhicitta is presented first and followed by the conventional awakened mind or bodhicitta. In other words, there are those practitioners who first cultivate the ultimate bodhicitta, and then they will cultivate the conventional bodhicitta later on. But according to this mind training like the rays of the sun commentary on the 7-point mind training text, those two orders have been reversed. It is first the conventional bodhicitta is presented and followed by the ultimate bodhicitta. So according to this way, which means that first we have to train our mind in the preliminary practices, and then we cultivate the conventional bodhicitta, mind of enlightenment. So we see that our mind is stabilized, right? Stabilized in these states of mind, and then we will train our mind to cultivate the ultimate bodhicitta. Okay? And so in the middle of the page 105, we find 4 lines quoted from the 7-point mind training text. Basically, it highlights the ultimate bodhicitta development. And I quote, "Consider all phenomena as like dreams. Examine the nature of unborn awareness. The remedy itself is released in its own place. Place the essence of the path on the nature of the basis of all," unquote. So as Geshe explained, the first line which says, consider all phenomena as like dreams. So this really basically highlights the need to understand how all phenomena as objects, they do not exist truly, or they are empty of true existence or intrinsic existence. The second line, examine the nature of unborn awareness, meaning that the perceptions or the subjective minds engaged in the objects, they too are empty of true existence, intrinsic existence. The third line is basically saying that when we take together both the objects and the perceptions, their subject, they both lack true existence, intrinsic existence. Once we understand that nature, ultimate nature of all phenomena, objects and subject, through analysis, analytical process and meditation, then we should let our mind as if sit in that ultimate bodhicitta. Just let it be, and so that's what those lines indicate. Knows.
This is Gamba Tamani Jane, Mani Betona, Shingo, Joe, Gobi, Gonanya, the Gubis, Rimba in Las, Gamba Tamati, that Sumashi, Zimbashi, and Sundini Gashi. Or that is Jungin, because our director, that is Sundini Gami, shout this and took Jebashin Bashana, and did it, the Jagum Gumja Juris. In what he got Jeva the Yeshin, and the Pigit Karsa. Many of the Tonga, Yaman Josiati. Oh, Judo, that Yamsha, Judoka, Judoka, Thubten, you make him with us. So Judoka, the Jumata was non him was the tower. What did is that Yamsha don't do, Yamsha, the Tomokan, request Jevashe, any Casa de me be Judo San, and they may have a pig, never is the shot. The Yamsha also any. Yamjak the table going to share the Jimata with that show this.
No.
He won't do this, that's so much is it. There are no Tondu Shanju Sim Bobe, Rebatabal, Chega Shimbu, Sung Hasi Meba was that the Dim, the Tondu Shanju Sim Jo Gumzutel, did at the Sheva Konagi, any Karsa, Lojo Savana, you get ease. That I did my here, that it. Todo says Tony, no, she told us the Gumzute, Chega, Nahira, my hips in it, and the Lord saying, she was it. She was that the Tunu Shazu Gumzu Kanga, Savas and Meval, and then send the bear, took the Mel and Dawada, and the Musum say, so about this year, and they never say that, and they may but don't do that to those Savas Midua. That this. This road that in a turn of Shiva. Here, the good says Sim Josuti, Pidgin Chulugachic by the total says Sim Josutil that in the because the capture shown said because that Tabun Shimun didn't live or how did no. Or said that did that Shiva currently gave all your model that the part shiny in the Chandan, no better could walk she is.
So the last line that you have in the middle of page 105, which reads, place the essence of the path on the nature of the basis of all. And what that means is, as Geshe explained, that we use analytical thinking and method, technique, to look at phenomena as objects and to find out whether they truly exist, intrinsically exist or not. Okay, and they don't. And then we use the analytical reasoning and process to look at perceptions of the subjective minds engaged in the objects, whether these subjective minds do exist truly and intrinsically, and we realize they don't. Then we looked at, take them together. If we take them together, is there something that is truly existent or intrinsically existent? We realize nothing is, And so through this analytical process, when we realize that nothing truly exists in and of itself or intrinsically exists in and of itself, then we should let our mind just sit in that particular mode or a state. Okay, so that's what great according to great Kadamba Geshe Chekawa, and those lines are taken from the 7-point mind training text by the great Geshe Chekawa. As Geshe-la explained, when it comes to explaining what ultimate bodhicitta or ultimate awakened mind is, there are only few words or statements being made. No detailed explanations are given. Sometimes we encounter words like as if nothing exists at all. Maybe we come across the word nothingness, or unfindability, and so we really don't know exactly what is ultimate bodhicitta. What is the criteria by which we can say that we develop this bodhicitta? No such really detailed explanations are provided. That's why often different schools of thought might have different perspectives on what it is. When it comes to explaining conventional bodhicitta or Kuntsop Chanchu Jisim, almost all schools of thought are very much agree with that. Because there isn't that much of an issue right there. But that's not the same with ultimate bodhicitta presentation. And as you can see on page 106, right on the top it says that in between meditation sessions, be like a conjurer. The Tibetan word is when you are out of your meditative state. Because in meditative state, what we do is we use analytical reasoning and process and technique to look at both object and subject, if anything exists truly or intrinsically. And through such analysis at the end, we do not find anything that is truly existent and intrinsically existent. Okay? And then we try to let our mind sit on that. Now, when we come out of that meditative state, we call it Nyamsha, right? We are in a post-meditational period, Tunzam, in between sessions. Then by the power of that understanding of emptiness during the meditation period, we should be able to look at things all like an illusion. Gyuma, the Tibetan word Gyuma is translated as a Maya, Sanskrit, translated as illusion or magical creation. Everything is just like a magic, and there's no real substance, intrinsic substance to phenomena. So that's all it's being said in the Chekawa's words. And so next, in a big caption, it reads, the actual instructions on cultivating the ultimate awakened mind. As Geshe-la explained, that because ultimate bodhicitta is not explained in too many words in detail, so there's a lot of schools of thought, they can explain it, similarly or differently. So that's why the author of Mind Training Like the Rays of the Sun said, I'm going to delve more into this particular section, cultivating awakened bodhicitta, kind of references all other authentic texts, taking out resources from other relevant texts that I'm going to explain what this ultimate bodhicitta is in detail. Okay, so that means going beyond what Geshe Chekawa has said in the 7-point mind training text. So basically, as Geshe-la said, all the things we talked about in the context of Thakton Chemo, section on the great special insight on emptiness in the Lamrim. So we talk about what is true existence or intrinsic existence, and what's the object of negation, and what are the analytical techniques we can use to be able to investigate and analyze the ultimate nature of phenomena. So all of those things are very relevant, to be able to deal with the ultimate bodhicitta in depth or in details. No.
What the Karza, that the Shego de Tayoko in Jevo Meoshe, Kasebo Meoshe, what the Bodhicitta, Tata di Kuke to Korasheva Tagashe, Tata di Tomitella Pavdan the Candesina, and a choose again Karsa, and John de Londabe, and a tongue, Karsa, Suya Tangi, Gobo Lujo, just gone. And Lujo Loman daughter with Shevana Hitan province. And Jew, Padati, Sung Jas.
No,
So
so.
the Jeremy said the cheap waters.
No, so.
So that the Tony tell about the Canada, no, you want to head on, you say, daughter of the
No. So we are on page 106. As Geshe explained, that great Kadamba Geshe Chekaba, did not use too many words to explain about the awakened ultimate bodhicitta. And oftentimes, because when things are explained in few words, there is a lack of clarity as well, and kind of a detailed explanation. So here, the author of this text says, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go more into the detail with regard to cultivating the ultimate bodhicitta. And the way I'm going to do that is, following the way of, the great Arya Nagarjuna and his, disciples, particularly Aryadeva and Acharya Chandrakirti, so as a great Indian master, Adisha, sitting to the left of me in the altar, he followed, when it comes to establishing the ultimate nature of phenomena, emptiness, really he follows the way of Arya Nagarjuna and Aryadeva and Chandrakirti, and Lama Tsongkhapa, Jeremiah also exactly followed them. Okay, so following in their footsteps, the author of this text said that I'm going to explain what the ultimate bodhicitta is. No.
Saji long down, he little and Jewashi, little go till sale the powder daughter and gave sell tell Papa Sheni. And it did not issue in Sydney, chose your song shas.
No.
And did just done the Jess song of Shivataran Tigan ten pan she wore a shadow, but that did that only she had to dinner here, daughter was here because a little looked hearings.
No, sure. And so in the middle of page 106, you find lines quoted from great master Atisha, and I quote, "Who has realized emptiness? He who was prophesied by the one thus gone," meaning Buddha, "and saw the true reality, Nagarjuna's disciple Chandrakirti, by following the instructions derived from him, you will realize the true reality," unquote. So basically, great Indian master Atisha said that Shakyamuni Buddha prophesied that Arya Nagarjuna would be the pioneer who will, elucidate his doctrine on emptiness, the ultimate reality. And then later, it was Chandrakirti who really elucidated the Nagarjuna's teaching on doctrine on emptiness, the discourse on emptiness, I should say. And so that is precisely how Nagarjuna thought about what emptiness is, and the Lama Tsongkhapa followed their way. Yeah? And so whose approach we are going to adopt to talk about emptiness and ultimate bodhicitta? We are going to adopt the approach of Arya Nagarjuna, Chandrakirti, and Lama Tsongkhapa. No.
Oh, this is Taba, Tati, Jedable Sungano, Telapa, Kadir, Sajir, the Maribum, Muso, Koyatsa Temba, Tipo, Damik, Tatel, Upgushi, Tel Baby, Sulo, Stanido, Kanji, Tico, Koyatsa, Maribum, Muso, Kaji, Damito said, Damito said, Tiny, Hamutabo, Dinzi, the Maribum, Musumi. This is that Karsa Tebala, Tepuma, Dami, they are Telbago, Telebulu, Tamone, Mariba, the Republic, Midu show, secure in us. Maru said, Require is a little bit of a lot of Sigora. Midu show the Dinzi de Roa. She required, she said, Mariba said, the Carson, Tagase, require he my Bazan and Mariba Sigmaris. Require he correctly, Zidon, Tadan Givandu, give what it is. And Mariba cigarettes. Because the Buddhist Chirua in La, they are mad. Require he hands on the citizen, require he my was out of what I require he my hands of Sina, Pumaka, the Congress, the Marwa, tell you any teacher about Buddhist or Shamarwa. Think that the Zikona shower, Sigurava. So the Rikpa cousins, maybe Buddhist show my hands, the Rikpa cousins, the Ripa my with some sentence, tell I have Marwa. That carry showers that she doing it in the Mariba said, don't you know a share of Jizam with Jimmy, any moon get you lost in the Mariba city, start what you see now?
No, so. No, so.
And with you show, of course, I never with you show my Ripa Gida. We do show the show, so the Mariba carries and don't you know a share of the Zidam with you, any they seem to move a jail Mariba or the Maribas and Titties.
No, so. So at the bottom of page 106, you find it stated then how they are going to approach this ultimate bodhicitta development in two ways. Number one, we will have to, identify or recognize the fundamental ignorance, which is the root of being in samsara, korezawa, and then we will establish what selflessness is or what emptiness is, Dharma. Okay? And so on page 107, we find recognizing what ignorance is. Ignorance, which is referred to as the root cause of our being in samsara, is not any kind of ignorance. It is a very particular kind of ignorance, which is not simply lack of awareness of anything, or even awareness of ultimate nature. Okay. But it is whatever kind of ignorance, the way in which it perceives phenomena to exist directly contradicts the way wisdom realizing emptiness sees phenomena to exist. Okay. So it's that particular kind of ignorance which is the root cause of our being in samsara. Okay. So the Tibetan word ripa yishe, ripa means to see, literally, to cognize, to be aware. Yishe means wisdom. Okay. And so that kind of wisdom refers here to a wisdom that sees emptiness as it is, that cognizes emptiness as it is. Okay. Now the ignorance, which is the root cause of samsara, is the antithesis of this wisdom. It's not any kind of ignorance, right? Just lack of not knowing something else, or lack of awareness. It is a very specific kind of ignorance, which basically the way it looks at the phenomena, and how they actually exist in the mode of apprehension, zindan, mode of apprehension of phenomena by this ignorance, directly contradicts with the wisdom realizing emptiness. Okay. So we have to recognize that particular ignorance. In other words, when we say we have the ignorant grasping at phenomena, so that's that kind of grasping we are talking about. We have to be able to identify that we have ignorance within ourselves that exaggerates the ultimate nature of phenomena and don't see how phenomena actually exists. And this kind of mode of apprehension is directly contradicted by the wisdom realizing selflessness or emptiness. Okay, so that's what we are, talking about. Lunch.
This is Karsa. The require is at the Jidan, this require is and the Jawanga should always shut up the lady to always show up without always shut up because it teach to be getting along to be shut to require is the Richard was at all. Require is the same rigor is tones and doors at the one.
No, sir.
Ready in the Tarita that the Mari was at that might be do short the Shagmar is Karasa and Tadi require it in a damage of a shadow corner showers.
No, sir.
Without our Java, later of the Shagmaris.
No,
Damage of a shadow corner shower. Teen get the Midis Hotel and the Mari, but I don't lose it or teas.
no,
So
sir.
it's out you are.
No, sir. So in other words, there are all different kinds of ignorance or marikba, avidya in Sanskrit, the marikba in Tibetan. Okay? For example, we have marikba, ignorance pertaining to the infallibility of law of karmic action and outcomes, lente miluwa, right? And so that ignorance is again not the root cause of our being in samsara. We have ignorance pertaining to, the existence of life before and life after, or to the existence of many lifetimes. That is ignorance, no doubt, but that is not the root ignorance that keeps us in samsara. Yeah? And we might have ignorance pertaining to the impermanent nature of things. We might see the things as being permanent, but that ignorance is also not the root, the ignorance we refer to as the root cause of our being in samsara. So the ignorance that is the root cause of our being in samsara is the ignorance that exaggerates the ultimate nature of phenomena, final modes of existence of things, and misperceives, how things actually exist. And that mode of apprehension, zindang, is directly contradicted by the wisdom realizing selflessness or emptiness. Yeah. So that particular ignorance is the ignorance, the root cause of our being in samsara. All other ignorance may be related to that, but they are not one and the same thing, isn't it? Just like we can say Rigpa Yishe. Rigpa Yishe is, in Sanskrit, we said this cognitive awareness. Now, cognitive awareness, there's different level too. Cognitive awareness of impermanence, cognitive awareness of the infallibility of law of karmic actions and outcomes, cognitive awareness of the life before and life after. All of them are related, right? And all of those cognitive awareness are not direct antidote to the fundamental root ignorance. Okay? So the direct antidote to the fundamental root ignorance is the wisdom realizing selflessness or emptiness. Yeah, so it's very important for us to differentiate that ignorance from other types of ignorance, such as just simply lack of awareness or any other kinds of ignorance. No.
What is it? Because what the TV didn't that do the Bayana, tell I think Hansa say that do the Bayin source. She said that the require his at that require him on it. That demeter was that demeter was shared at the shadow. They shine the Midisho de la Midisho, the Lindsay Mevatayat, any Java that you would do share Maris.
No.
Because in the dad, the mother of that, the Inzitel, Hansa say that. And the Kaza that Jubata, she does Jubatang, your teen shagris.
No, sir.
But the Karasa require at the Dameter here at the shower, this is the shagris.
No, sir.
Tabanilla, tell the Kaza, she does the source, or the daddy Dagitella, Kaza does the shake, does the need that you Luciana, Kaza does the shake, does the children for Shama, the Gaza, Tara Yamara.
No, no.
Kaza does this, the Kaza Koram does this, she does the Kaza Pumbo being, she does it. Kaza Joga, Nigash and the War.
No. No. So we are on page 107. So when we talk about realizing selflessness or emptiness, selflessness means Dhargye, okay? Emptiness means Tongyi in Tibetan, or Shunyata, Sunnata, which directly counteracts
the fundamental ignorance, that is the root cause of our being in samsara, that fundamental ignorance, it exaggerates, how everything actually exists. The final nature of phenomena, it just exaggerates and fabricates it, So when we look at fabrication, the fabrication takes place on two levels. One is at the level of a person. That's why we talk about grasping at the self of a person, that kind of ignorance, and grasping at the self of phenomena, right, another level. Yeah? And so these graspings fabricate the way in which person and phenomena actually exist. Yeah? And that is, those are what constitute fundamental ignorance, or the ignorance which is called the root cause of our being in samsara. And to uproot those graspings of the ignorance, we must realize the selflessness of a person and the selflessness of phenomena, the two types of selflessness. Okay? Of course, the different schools of thought will have different take on these selflessnesses, but according to Prasangika Madhyamika, Umatingyuba point of view, what selflessness actually is just the same, whether it's the selflessness of a person, kangsakdame, or the selflessness of phenomena, chögyitangme. The only difference is the basis. One selflessness is established on the basis of a person, and the other selflessness is established on the basis of phenomena. So in terms of the basis, we find difference, but in terms of what selflessness actually is, according to Prasangika Madhyamikans, there is no difference of subtlety or coarseness, tara. It's just the same selflessness,
What is karsa? Da the karsa shoyi da the inshi da karsa thing the devoto the karsa the karsa shoyi the shoyi da karsa she. They are dharma then bebala se karsa chap che atam chap shua the che se simani made muruma yela te. Karsa chap she no yuba the dember yuba jigdu dene se she did the dember go be killing go be no ya sheva na de you keep look so she be say yuba chetu job she was good in you now so did it time and tumu bashi no bashi the sha bashi to shajin shijin that semi that chuba roll jo mi sheba that ne tuzu sai taji joba jigbe lam shi ta taji ta da jo tela bebe to go ma nyab lembe che ta da sher ya ma jo sung ju do gombe se jibu ka so chuzu ku yi gaza jegi tugu la ngoji la doba ta de chui de yin koe chida sida modong bo de lunro yumi xe zebe go ne simji yu tong shi du so se shilin jibu ku ye na ya tam je se ene chuban yuro se o da de da gaja chab je kaza go so pye che ya ye zen de dimade tere da kanje karse na karsa keche this gaza chapje kaji tere di gaza gusa keche bu khare se na tere ya ene chapcha ene be jebashi mani bu to da ene jia me ba shin ene jangme shin ene chame chubase zan yo mi ji shin ene chame chuba sha ba de hi chu zan me sha do ro ene hi chu de liar ene lang dor shin the lamdo re sanji we shi de kaji hilum de so sho ga ga ji me chungol ma do ji to da gu na ji me sha do ro wa o ti chong de yo re so da
no. So we are on page 107. To be able to understand well and realize what selflessness is, we must first, make sure that we precisely identify the object of negation, or what is being refuted or negated, gakcha. It is so vital, important, okay, to do that. And if we make mistakes in terms of identifying the object of negation, then we could fall into extreme viewpoints, and we will miss the the middle path, what emptiness is. And the two major errors or mistakes that we could make in terms of identifying the object of negation, gakcha, is either we we went overboard. We refute too much, and that's a big problem. Or we don't refute enough, right? When in terms of identifying and refuting the object of negation, if we refute too much, we fall into the extreme of nihilism, right? Denying everything. If we don't refute enough, then we fall into the extreme of eternalism. Okay? And as Geshe explained, if we refute too much, so what that means is that now we think that, oh, if everything is empty of self, that means nothing exists at all. Okay? And so if we think nothing exists at all, then the big problem we have is that we cannot talk about valid perceptions, sema, and their objects, and we cannot talk about the basis and the path and the result, shilam desum, because we said everything is empty of self, so nothing exists at all. If nothing exists at all, there cannot be the basis for realities. There cannot be the paths realizing the realities. There cannot be the results coming out of the developing the paths, right? So we will throw away everything, so then only position we take is that, you know what? Actually, nothing exists at all. Everything exists for the mistaken mind. Looks like everything exists, but it's only for the mistaken mind, tumor, right? But in actuality, nothing exists at all. So we become a nihilist. We become denial. Denialist. I make a new word here. We deny everything, which means basically, there is no basis, there is no path, and there is no result for us. So that is like going overboard with identifying the object of negation and refuting too much.
我这大可是，现在的可是，当不西南边出上呢，西南边的里呀，那出没这么多，我那这前面这没事呢，你西南边这个浪多大的带把那么高上去是吧？现在这西南边可能没那，日本人给南边那些日本人写下点点那中国的人都是讲说写这些能这个吧？我这些是西南边要我带了嘛吧那。lam ki nam ya bo rig mar lam nam ya bo mar ne ribu nam ya rig mar wa cheta de ta na ga khar se ba ji na ga ba chuk se ya she je ti hi nam ya de ba ko ne ta sa ni ju kha de ji do ti he ga di hi bu ya bo ri ti che de he she bo ri she che de hi nam ya de ga chu mo do me ba sha na til ki ga ya lam ki nam ya de ba yam se le de ya sa ye ri ba de ga chuk sa chi ga me sha sa ro ba这的已经没见，那开始我这他老是什么那里毛不写啥着？
那是。So if we, go overboard with identifying the object of negation and we refute too much, so we become a nihilist. Basically, we say that nothing in actuality exists at all, and things only exist for mistaken perceptions. And if we take that position, that is a very detrimental position, because right on the level of the basis, where we are trying to establish, different types of realities, we couldn't do that. Because if we said nothing exists at all, we cannot talk about valid cognitions, objects of valid cognitions. We cannot talk about, things to put into practice and cultivate. We can talk about things that we need to get rid of, abandon. So the whole practice of abandonment and cultivation, langdor, just goes away completely, isn't it? So then it's basically like, you know what, well, there is a practice. People say, yeah, people do get rid of things like, oh, it's only for the mistaken perception. In reality, nothing. Well, there are people who highly realize, no, it's just for the mistaken perception. Nobody's realized, you know. So we completely destroy everything that exists. And it's almost like we are talking about, you know, something that non-exists, but we love to talk about it. It's just like we say, you know, bunny's got the horns on the head, right? And then, you know, are those horns beautiful or ugly? You know, we talk about the qualities and the problems of the bunny's horns, which don't exist at all. It makes no sense, you know. So like that, when we talk about cultivating paths and getting realized, you know, and, you know, spiritually growing and finding attainment as a result, nothing works because we said nothing exists at all. All of these things only exist for mistaken consciousness or mistaken perception. So we become completely nihilist that we deny the existence of everything. So that's why everything goes wrong in the step number 1. Everything will go wrong. Now, if nothing exists at all, there is no path, there is no result. So what is there actually? You know, the Tibetans have a saying that going by the lunar calendar, if everything goes wrong the first day of the moon, all other things will go wrong until you know, the month is over. So we have to be very careful with that kind of going overboard with identifying the object of negation and refuting too much.
Loverji, Trigger, JVC, Ombuhivanam, Ombuhivanams. Mubaranze, no Shiva, Sumbes, Toba in the Hula Majuata, Tomila Noila Majua on this, Shabe, Ranshi, now Ranshi, Kasa, Ranze, he was, Pongoji, so he tended. Meju Goju Dane, Nushi, Nimi Shivala, Ratna Shaba Maybe, Tongi Dulu de, Tadaka Be, Tongi, Shi Damedan, Zedos, or did that in a Tia Damed Dada Karsa, Ronjuba Damed, Kaza Damiji Waynes. That the Kaza Damiji Waynes said that. Kunje jashi visa to sina ni kaza da me rakwa jogu khaga khaga regi tate shomu go re jidan te je dinale ya jigwa yin se de wa kaza da me se ni de da rangji de ya jigwa yin song de wa o de se da chöi da me de la en de da lo ne me na sha bo yong tu mo du lu zhuo di chöi da sha ti do chöi da me sha da de yo ba ze ba de chöi dang di sha ni en da me rakwa di ni de ba jigwa shi cha de le en London now shall we you to do to Thomas and that, Denver to be Thomas and that, Tonta to Thomas and that, or Dishagroa.
No.
Or Dami Shada did this, that to the mark he did Dami. Should I told Dami said, check the Ganga Kelly or so that do the mirror do
No, sir. So what we just talked about is this, that if we identify the object of negation to be too broad, we go overboard with it, and we refute it too much, then we become nihilists, that we come to, to the conclusion that nothing exists at all, and things only exist for mistaken consciousness. So as we said, this is a huge problem, because right on the basis, when we try to establish realities and valid cognitions and their objects, we couldn't do it because we said nothing exists at all. So there is no basis, there is no path, there is no result. Yeah. So we completely, become an annihilationist. We deny everything. So that is a huge, problem. The other problem that is related to identifying the object of negation is, being too narrowed down and not refuting enough, so now this particular problem, it's from our Buddhist schools of thought, is really related with almost all Buddhist schools of thought except Prasangika Madhyamika, right? From the middle way school has two schools of thought: Prasangika Madhyamika school of thought, consequentialist, middle way proponent, and Sevatantrika Madhyamika school. The other, sub-school of the middle way. And then down below we have Chittamatans on the mind-only school. And then below that we have Sautantika school of thought, Dodeva. Then we have Vaibhasika school of thought, Chettamava. So all the schools below the Prasangika Madhyamika school, all of them subscribe to some notion of intrinsic reality somewhere, isn't it? So which means they have not precisely identified the object of negation, and therefore when they try to refute the object of negation, they are not refuting enough. See, that's their problem. Okay? In Buddhism, one of the general framework that all Buddhists accept is the 4 seals of Buddha's doctrine or teaching, right? Shoji Domshi. The 4 seals of Buddha's teaching, that's what we're talking about, is that the Duche Thamje Mitaba, everything that's produced is impermanent. All products are impermanent. Okay, all Buddhists accept that. Okay, Sakche Thamje Tungeba, all contaminated phenomena are in the nature of suffering. Che Thamje Tongshi Tameba, all phenomena are empty of self. Okay, Nyangele Deva Shiva, Nirvana or freedom from samsara is peace. Okay? So all Buddhists
accept these false seals of Buddha's teaching, and it looks like they have no problem with saying that all products are impermanent, all contaminated phenomena are in the nature of suffering, and nirvana is peace. Now when it comes to all phenomena are selfless and empty, different schools of thought have different viewpoints. So all Buddhist schools are not on the same page. Okay, so this is where this becomes a very contentious issue in Buddhist study of thought. For example, the two lower schools of Buddhist thought, Vaibhasikas and Sautrantikas, Chedama and Dodeba, they only subscribe to the selflessness of a person. They never talk about the selflessness of phenomena. Yeah. So if you ask them what is the selflessness of a person means, that means selflessness of a person means that self or a person, does not exist self-sufficiently, rangya, and substantially, rangya tuba zayu tongba. A person does not exist substantially and self-sufficiently on its own. So it lacks that kind of existence. So that's called the selflessness of a person. So that's accepted by the Vaibhasikas and Sautrantikas, but they never talk about selflessness of phenomena. Okay, so for them, all phenomena are selfless and empty means that, just that. Okay. Now, when it comes to, the higher school, Chitta Martins on the mind-only school, not only they do accept the selflessness of a person, just like the Vaibhasikas, Sautrantikas, but they also talk about the selflessness of phenomena. Now, if you ask the mind-only school, Chitta Martins, what is selflessness of phenomena? They said, well, for us, selflessness of phenomena means the emptiness of, duality between subject and object. Subject and object are of no different entities. They are of the same entity, right? Right? Subject and object are, empty of different entities. That means the non-duality between subject and object. So that is the selflessness of phenomena according to Chitta Martins, which is not accepted by Vaibhasikas and Sautrantikas. Okay. Now we go the higher up, the middle way school or the Madhyamik. There are two schools, Prasangika Madhyamika and Savatantaka Madhyamika. Now the Savatantaka Madhyamika also accept selflessness of a person, just like Chitta Martins, Vaibhasikas, Sautrantikas, exactly the same. But then also selflessness of phenomena. But you ask them what's the selflessness of phenomena, Savatantaka Madhyamikans differ from, again, Chitta Martins. They said for us, selflessness of phenomena means that, things are established not simply by way of their appearing to the what called unmistaken mind, but they exist something from its own side. Okay, something existing from its own side. In this translation on page 108, because they refer to the blazing of reasoning, Toke Barwa by Acharya Baba Viveka, Lobon Lengdenche, right? And this is their position. Savatantaka Madhyamikans assert inherent existence or existence to its own characteristics posited by the force of a non-conceptual thought which is unmistaken with regard to its appearing object, but that's what it is. So they accept in their school of thought that conceptual thoughts are never mistaken with regard to their referent objects, Xinyu. Non-conceptual thoughts are never mistaken with regard to their appearing objects, Nangyu. Okay? So for them, selflessness of phenomena means that things appear to the unmistaken, non-conceptual mind, right, as if they exist from its own characteristics. Okay? And so that, that is the object of negation. And how to say? Let me see. No, they accept that things appear to exist by way of their own characteristics to the unmistaken, non-conceptual mind. Okay, and so according to Savatantaka Madhyamikas, the selflessness of the phenomena means that phenomena are, this is my footnote. Okay, just so clarify again, exists by way of imputation as well as by way of existence from its own characteristics. It's almost like a combination, isn't it? So that is their understanding of selflessness of phenomena. Which again Prasangika Madhyamika does not agree with. Okay? So as you can see, with regard to the statement all phenomena are selfless and empty, Buddhist schools of thought have different viewpoints on this. Okay? So that's very, very complex. No. Okay, sure. Can cover paper again? Paying out of us again, sure, not on the name or something. Engine on the thing all ya consider can cheba server station again, service. Service can service.
Yes. The word to us, the word Truba name, Saka the guy, Gura Gura, good to us, that took the Trivasea better.
No, so.
What that tea has that no tones, Tatu will Jesus, tea word Truba, tea word Truba, the eager for a noise.
No, so.
What to us, you will Jesus, this one tossing the days was a
no, so.
Because the religious Truba, tea word Truba, the tea has that no tones, Zenesa. Taduji Rihi Hijayana and Akati Jesu Yokosta, request Jesu do was a go to get it.
The Nidin Shugo again.
La,
as a Nidin Drugo Sgoroda.
La,
Taduji Rigbe Casadi, service Nidin Nidin the near Google Sgo, Takan that road, lossless. No.
She had the chit to sue, she had the Tadu Katel, Tadu Kayes, Taduji request Jesu to the debate of do says Lani, and Tadu religious that the hill you miss, Yamja, you missing is your
Lade.
That Kaji died, no debate is correct, and Yamja, the Taduji religious road, don't you didn't receive the Chabasu, don't you didn't receive it.
No, so.
Well, as all the have Yamja, you missing the day.
Oh, no.
That told what does it take there? But the Jeva, don't you talk about Jeva here? Quite. Jeva be shining in the coy, the coy rehearsal and you may say, Jeva, he had Chelia, Taduji will reheat so shining his marish.
No, so.
Jeva shining his they can't say, because there's some reward.
No, so.
No,
so.
Because that get the program at the Yota Moshi, the time as the Modos at the Team more trouble, that doesn't. Revenge to Triba, tea more Trubas, that the Saga the Gashi Gura Guti in Samari.
No, so.
Tea more Sukdum Truba, tea more Trubasi. Tea Shada Tones and Zen, Tatuji Rishi Jesu, Rishi Heza, tea Jesu, because the Rishi Jesu, the Heja, the Heja was on the Chita Yonda Vishina. Tadu Jesus Mela or Mela Santa, and the Yamia to the Yumor say, well, did what? Doing Yamia Yulana, and the Kodamia, the Tadu whatever.
Bloody, and that can do children.
Bloody, so the business don't do this. In Yamia Yumor say, what you did the shower.
I don't know.
Takayaka Yamia, the trouble in the court. Tadu will Jesus, they put the butter.
I don't know. I'll pay a look down on the shit and lost.
Take that more lots of the Shabbat children, the Tulus more lots of Cordiero, Cono so much Shiva Tumudua, Shiva some Jagore.
No, so. I'll you messing and the more lots of messing in the work. No, Shabbat is using in the check again. Tindu be doing the work again. No, so. So Geshe-la's explanation pertains to what you find at the bottom of page 108 and top of page 109. Views of, early Tibetan masters, as we may recall, we did this in the context of great Lamrim Chemo, you know, how sometimes early Tibetan masters hold very contentious viewpoints with regard to emptiness. So we seem to have quite a fun, you know, Geshe is chuckling over that, you know. So there are different views held, you know, by what we simply call the early Tibetan masters. Usually we don't name them per se, you know, but there are examples who they are, we know. So according to them, you know, some of them, I said, early Tibetan masters say that, you know, when we put, you know, any phenomenon into the analytical framework, right? When we run the ultimate analysis of things, and so at the end of that analysis, they said, you know, nothing should be, you know, how should I say, findable, okay? And so because nothing is findable in the meditative equipoise on emptiness, namhka, right? So they come to the conclusion that nothing exists at all. So the view of nothingness, isn't it? So there are some early Tibetan masters who subscribe the view of nothingness because they said, you know, when you enter into meditative equipoise on emptiness, you are using your analytical mind, right? And that analyzes, you know, every detail, and at the end, you don't find anything. So what that means is that nothing exists at all. So they said, you know, that's what it is. But which is the erroneous view, isn't it? Yeah. The mind in the meditative equipoise of emptiness does not see any conventional phenomena, but that doesn't mean nothing exists at all. But they think this is what it is. Some other early Tibetan master says that, no, it's not like nothing exists, because that analytical mind at the end, it sees emptiness, the ultimate reality. So therefore they think the ultimate reality is truly existent. That's the only thing. Emptiness is the only thing that truly exists or intrinsically exists. So they subscribe to the view of eternalism, isn't it? So both are problematic viewpoints or erroneous views, but nonetheless, you know, this is how, you know, we found among, you know, early Tibetan, you know, masters. You know, some of the names Geshe gave, very famous name, like, you know, great master Chaba Choje, because he represents that view that when you, you know, engage in the analytical process, trying to find out how things actually exist, at the end, what you find is the emptiness, and emptiness is truly existent, Tembadruba. So he said, that's why, you know, only thing that exists truly is emptiness. Then there's other great masters like Losawa, the translator, you know, who says that nothing exists at all, because he said, when you go through the ultimate analysis, at the end, nothing is findable. So that unfindability means nothing exists at all, you see. So that's why even great masters in the past, so they have these different erroneous, you know, viewpoints, you know. So I think we better stop there today, you know, with this heavy-duty discussion on emptiness, selflessness, and we will continue, you know, next, you know, week. And let me first take down the page number. Where did we stop? Page number 109. And I know we have questions there, do we? And then I have two announcements to make, which will take a little bit of time. No. So the question I have here is, does understanding and accepting rebirth, multiple lives, therefore negate the basic cause, this fundamental ignorance, or this root cause being in samsara, since we won't be grasping to only the life we are living? Okay, I'll ask that question to Geshe. Can Tiwadi this shugudu? 당가서 남주 개왕아지 캐len by nasroage. 개왕아지 캐len 되게 개왕 망고 캐len 거 여러게. 자서 캐란바 다가랑기 되게 코베사와 머리 버서긴 저 여러게. 디 안에 갈서고래 코디 딜 임하제 버로 차르고 버서 그래서 그런 디 텐데 동안 개왕아지 캐란바 이나 단대 개와 디고 지금 시우지 담진진 차마다 버서 여러게. 대신에 개와 망고 여러게. Chedi Kanglia, Dine Jawa Ngaji Kelamina, Jawa Mongolay, Kelamina, Koveza Mariba again. And the Karsogore, Diresa, Mariba de Rovage, a Kemalem Chadugoras, a Mariba del Mutum ever Chadugoras, a Kanzakiawa, Digo, Tande, Jawa, the Chugo, Dine Chetigo Marwagan. So that one. Okay, Lamina Koveza, Mariba.
Tada Maribati Karsati, Ganzi the Shore the Dogmari, Tado, Josh Kela, the Yacha Shima, Yat, the Devago Tantoni, Kongashu Share Radira,
Losa.
Nakora, Dazi, she never told some Pegram, he called Tom Hill, called this is Timoma Nima's Lar, the Dazi, the Monale, Consumer Motor. The classical to conduct and the jazz, Nimitan, one of the Yomaraco.
No, sir. Geshe says that, even if we understand and we accept rebirth, many lifetimes, right? That kind of understanding, acceptance does not negate the root ignorance of our being in samsara. But as a matter of fact, there's a possibility that now we are not only grasping at the intrinsic reality of this life that we are living, that we could also be grasping at the intrinsic reality of future lives that we will be, And so to get rid of this grasping at intrinsic reality, we really have to first identify how are we, how are we seeing the self to exist intrinsically. And then we have to go through the analytical process to counteract it directly that really self does not exist in the way it appears to exist intrinsically to us. That is the only way to uproot the grasping. Unlike other afflictive emotions, sometimes when we have attachment, we can think about the demerits of attachment subsides, isn't it? Or we have anger, we can think about something else, it'll cool down. But grasping at self is not like that. We have to understand how does this grasping perceive self and phenomena to exist? And then once we get a clear image of that the things are perceived to exist intrinsically, now we analyze it, do they really exist that way? Or they simply appear to exist that way to our mind? Once we know that things don't exist that way, actually things are empty of intrinsic reality, that kind of understanding, it directly counteracts our ignorant grasping at self. Okay, so that's the only way. So, the answer is no. There's another question that I'll go down if there's any more.
There's one question.
How is like that?
How is that?
Yeah, I found it here. Sometimes the iPad works, sometimes iPad don't work. How is that hearers do not assert the self of phenomena as an object of negation, yet hearers, superiors have realized the selflessness phenomena as per Jermuche. Okay. Da Quran kan di shugudu ge. Da na nyente yo ro ba gen. Nyente. Nyente dige ta chöge ta sgen de keling yo mar was ge ro ba gen. Chöge ta keling yo mar was.
Chöge da mes.
Da chöge ta da ta men ge keling yo mar was.
Nyente Devas ya Nyendo Tikwal Higu.
Oh, Nyendo Devas, that one Nyendo Deva Yerovagan. Yamana Quata Nyendo Labs Rovagan. Nyendo de Churg Dark Linky Menas Rovagan. That Chada the Gakal Nuis and Panga Shiki Marovagan. Ninde Yima in Nasa. And the Jerry Muji Sumbaina and Nyendo de any Caso Tajumbo Tower, Papa Chavar Wagan. Papa Combacha de Galia and Churg Tame Tos Legdo, that you could get that to me, Rovagan. Papa Kansa said, Churg Tame Tower.
The tricky Hughes said that you did that you know you true. Jerry said, you did say the Tony Mazo Tavata was the long you did think was at the rock. That Che Dark Kelly you did Devas.
Want to make it shut up? No, sir. Ale. Because you do the Rangi and the church.
You do the Rangi, 10 years do here. You do the Rangi Papa days on 20 dollars. Because the 10 years we travel, don't you do travel? Sure,
the time of Chago. No. Can't sure again. Engine I didn't see them at the cover is loving and here is love again. I understood the question and what Geshe said, so don't worry, not like I'm confused or something. I'm just trying to find out where did that kind of statement appear in this textbook here, you know? Anyway, Geshe's explanation. Let me read the question one more time for the sake of everybody. How is that hearers do not assert the self of phenomena as object of negation, yet hearers superiors have realized the selflessness of phenomena as per Rinpoche? Clarification. Geshe said that often people confuse between the Nyentö, translated as hearers, Nyentö Teba, the two lower schools of thought, Vaibhasikas and Sautrantikas. They are not one and the same thing. Okay? The two lower schools of thought, Vaibhasikas and Sautrantikas, only accept selflessness of a person, not the selflessness of phenomena. Okay? That's from the philosophical point of view. Hearers, solitary realizers, those are different. Okay? They are the practitioners on the path seeking their liberation from samsara. According to Prasangika Madhyamika school of thought, for them to be superiors or transcendental beings, Aryas, right, Pakpa in Tibetan, they have to realize selflessness, which means they have to realize selflessness of both person and phenomena. Okay? So the hearers, you know, for them to become superiors or transcendental beings, they must realize selflessness of phenomena. So those are two things. You know, we cannot say that hearers do not accept the self of phenomena negation. That's not what it is. You know, hearers are practitioners on the path seeking their own liberation. So are the solitary realizers. They must realize selflessnesses to be superiors or transcendental beings and to be free from samsara. But the two lower schools of Buddhist thought, Vaibhasikas and Sautrantikas, in Tibetan called Nyentö Teba, you know, they are the lower schools of thought. Let's put it that way. So they only accept selflessness of a person, not selflessness of phenomena, according to their positions. Okay, so that's what it is.